Hello and welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of the Irish Home Show, your guide to Ireland's homes and property. I'm your host, Ben Thompson, the friendly estate agent. When I'm not selling homes for my clients, I'm also doing a lot of work to help inform buyers and sellers, renters and landlords about the Irish homes and property market. For years, I've been writing at my online magazine, irishhome.ie, and last year I wrote and published the first ever Irish Home Buyers Journal, a guide to taking you through the steps to buying your first home. This podcast is the centerpiece in a ton of new educational guides, articles and resources for aspiring home buyers and hopeful home movers. Each week, the Irish Home Show is bringing you a variety of news and stories, fun features, in-depth explainers, and expert guest interviews on various aspects around the Irish home. Now, you're joining us at the start of Season 1, where we're going to be focused on the house buying process in Ireland. Each week, we'll be tackling a topic on the journey to buy your first or your future home. From saving a deposit, to applying for a mortgage, to house hunting, to going sale agreed, and finally getting those keys. By the end of the next 10 episodes, we'll have a complete guide to buying your next home. This week, we're starting at the very beginning of almost everyone's house buying journey, savings. First up, I'm going to be running through our Savings 101 Explainer, a guide to what you need to save and why when you're looking to buy a home. Then, I'm going to be talking to the brilliant Kel Galavan, aka Mrs. Smart Money, about your money mindset and how to prepare good habits for saving for a deposit. After I've spoken to her, we're going to be running through some really fun features I have at the end of the show. We take our flight of fancy through what's out there on the housing market in our features in, out and away, and new home versus old home. Finally, we'll finish up the show with some latest news that is important for you to know. So stick around for the end of the show. If you're listening to the podcast, I urge you to go find our social media to see some of the videos and the visuals around each show. You'll find us on Instagram at Irish Home Magazine, and this whole show will also be on YouTube. Just search for Irish Home Magazine, and I'll include all the links in the show notes below. In the meantime, please subscribe to the Irish Home Show wherever you listen to podcasts so you can get each of our episodes next week in your feed. Are you ready? Then let's get started on your home buying journey. The Irish Home Show is brought to you by the Irish Home Buyers Journal, our guide to buying your first or your future home. This 64-page hardback ring-bound book takes you through every step in your house buying journey, from saving your deposit to applying for your mortgage, from house hunting through to getting your keys. It's filled with useful tips and tricks, essential checklists for each stage in the journey, plus fill in your self pages, track your progress towards your ultimate goal. It's a must-have for any home buyer. Visit irishhome.ie to order your copy today, or see our shop links on Instagram at Irish Home Magazine. Use the discount code SHOW, SHOW, to get free shipping on your order. Welcome to our explainer section. Each week I'm going to spend just 5 minutes explaining one part of the house buying process. This week we are talking Savings 101. I'm going to give you a brief overview of why we're saving towards a house, what that money's needed for, how much you're going to need, and some of the schemes out there that may help you in that process. Most people, when buying a house, are going to fund most of the purchase price with a mortgage, but you're also going to have to provide some cash on your own. This is known as a deposit, or your equity stake. Let's think of a fictional couple just to illustrate the point. Chris and Kira are hoping to buy a house. The property prices in their area average around $350,000. For that price, perhaps they get an inner city 2-bed apartment, or a suburban 3-bed semi-detached. Or perhaps they could live outside of the city and get a detached family home. Now, the first thing they're going to need is a deposit. That needs to be at least 10% of the value of the house. Central bank rules stipulate that a first-time buyer can only borrow up to 90% of the value of a home. This is designed to stop first-time buyers over-leveraging and taking too much debt. And it also protects the banks from over-lending. So any first-time buyer here buying a €350,000 house is going to need €35,000 in cash. If you're a second-time buyer, unfortunately, the rule is 80-20. You have to have 20% of the value of the home to buy the property, and only up to 80% of the value can be a mortgage. I know it feels frustrating, especially when you're trying to afford ever-increasing house prices, but it's probably best that this scheme has been in place for almost a decade, otherwise house prices would have probably got even more out of control. The second major cost is your purchase costs. That is mostly made up of two major things. Stamp duty, which is a tax payable to revenue. Now, it's 1% on the value of the purchase price of the property, up to €1 million. On any purchase over €1 million, every extra euro is taxed at 2%. It used to be up to 9%, so we're quite happy that it's only at 1 or 2% at the moment. The second major cost is going to be your solicitor's fees. They are your major professional fees that you need to pay when you're buying a home. Typically, that could be anywhere between €1,200 or €1,500 for an average property. It could be €2,000 or €3,000 if it's a more complicated or a more expensive property. On top of that, there's usually extra searches that might be an extra €500 or €1,000. After this, there's a couple of little bits and extras. Surveyors usually cost around €500. That's an essential part of the process to make sure you are buying a house that is solid and is not going to have major issues that you can't see on the surface. Finally, if you're getting a mortgage, the bank are going to require a valuer goes out to the house to have a look at it, make sure it's there, and make sure it's worth the value that you're paying for it. That could be an extra €150 that you have to pay. So let's look at the figures for our couple, Chris and Kira. They're buying a house worth €350,000. They need a deposit of €35,000. That's 10% of the purchase price. Their purchasing costs are going to add up to probably around €6,000. That's solicitor's fees coming to about €2,000. Stamp duty would be 1% of the purchase price, so €3,500. Survey, €500. Valuation, €150. All in all then, to buy a house of €350,000, they're going to need cash in their bank of around €41,000. Now, many buyers are very fortunate that they have help from family to fund their purchase of a property. Almost 50% of buyers at the moment are using bank of mum and dad as their main funding source for their deposit. However, you may have the 40 or so thousand euros sitting in your bank account ready to go. That doesn't mean you don't need to save. When we come on to mortgages in the next couple of weeks, we'll explain that the mortgage banks still need to see your ability to save, because that shows you have the ability to repay the mortgage to them in the future. So even if you have the full cash amount you need ready to go in the bank, you probably need to be saving for about 6 months prior to applying for your mortgage, just to prove that you can afford the repayments. Don't worry if you're renting, that will also count too, because obviously once you've bought a house, you won't be renting anymore. So if you're spending €1,000 a month, that will be taken into account as something that would go towards your repayment capacity. Finally, it does feel like a daunting amount of money to be able to save up. There are a couple of government schemes that are designed to help out first-time buyers in particular. One is the Help to Buy scheme, which will fund up to €30,000 of a deposit. The second is a new one, the First Home Shared Equity scheme, which will fund up to 30% of the value of the home. You can use both together. However, they're only applicable on new build homes. They will not apply to buying a second-hand home. I'll come on to these in more detail in later explainers in the next couple of weeks. That's your explainer about savings. Coming up next, I'm talking to Kel Galavan, Mrs. Smart Money, about money mindset and preparing good financial habits for saving money towards a home. Next week, I'm going to be talking about savings again in our explainer. I'm going to go into more practical details about how to budget your money, how to save, where to save. And we are going to be talking to Kaz Mooney, her of @IrishBudgeting on Instagram. She has blown up in the last year with practical tips and really good explainers about how to budget carefully. Now, let's get on to our interview this week with Kel Galavan. So welcome. This week, I'm talking to Kel Galavan. She is Mrs. Smart Money. You'll see her on Instagram, and she is a money saving expert who got out of her own position of debt and is now teaching other people to do the same. Kel, how are you?
I am great. It's great to be on here today, Ben. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Well, I'm so excited to have you as our first guest. As you know, this first season is going to be talking through mostly from the perspective of someone trying to buy probably their first home. And we're working our way through. And the first step for most people will be savings and getting people on the right track to even think about getting a mortgage, even think about being able to buy a house, is to have savings for a deposit ready to go. So we're going to start talking about that. You are the expert on that, and you do some brilliant stuff on your Instagram and all on your websites and stuff like that. So tell me, how did you get into becoming this expert?
Oh goodness, my poor story. It was you can sum it up by saying accident, life. But I think a lot of people out there will understand where I'm coming from, because I would have started off not having a clue about money, making all the mistakes that everybody makes, that we all learn the hard way. And my heart goes out to people who are trying to save for a deposit, because it's not easy. It's absolutely
no,
not
especially
easy.
in this current market. Yeah.
Oh, it's really turned on its head, because my story started when things were flipped 180, when you could literally walk in and you got a mortgage. But the problem with that is nobody explained to you. Now, I signed on the dotted line, I know that. Nobody explained to you what a mortgage was, and if you weren't ready for it, and there was 100% mortgages, this kind of thing. And it was, in a way, it was like the Wild West of mortgages. And I remember getting my mortgage, but delighted with myself, bought a house off the plans, didn't see the house for another year. You could have 2 or 3 houses really if you wanted, but you didn't understand.
Yes.
Yeah, but you didn't understand that you had to pay that money back. So when recession hit in, and this is sometimes kind of for younger people coming up, and you might kind of look back and go, well, you could get the money. But now when you flip it 180, you're trying to save this money. People now, and they're trying to get the money together to get on this property ladder. It's the same thing, but it's flipped. You're in this impossible position, and it can be tough, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, it's worth discussing, actually. Now, back then they would lend to anyone. Now we have been under much stricter Central Bank of Ireland rules for the last almost 10 years or so, where you have to have a certain amount of deposit. First-time buyers will have to have 10% of the value of the house. And lenders are under a strict criteria. They'll only lend you, the rule of thumb is about 3.5 times your income. There are a few exceptions that will take that up to 4.5. But in general, it's been a much more carefully restricted market, which has probably been a good thing. House prices have increased a huge amount in the last 10 years, almost doubled, but they probably would have been worse if it wasn't for these restrictions. So yeah, young people have a different challenge now. Instead of having money thrown at them that they might not be able to afford, they're almost having to overprove that they can afford a house that the mortgage might be less than the rent they're paying at the moment.
And for anybody who is saving up for a deposit for a house, don't lose heart. Don't give up on it. Keep building it. Keep building it. Your time will come. And when it comes to kind of a saving mindset, and I hope this will help some people, is that if you truly want this home that's going to be your forever home, not an investment home, not an extra home, just your forever home, focus on that. That is going to be the thing that's going to drive you forward. You will get it. It might take a bit longer, but when you're making financial decisions with your money coming in, just think, do I want this home, or do I want this impulse purchase, or do I want this instant gratification now? And I'm kind of jumping in a little bit deep straight away, but when it comes to that kind of mindset, it is thinking about, what do you value over and above everything?
So that's a good place for us to jump in on. And a lot of your thinking is mindfulness, and you've written the book on it, Mindful Money, which we'll talk about more in a bit. It's actually really important. I think a lot of people you're under pressure to save, and a lot of what they are feeling is, do I have to live this completely frugal life and cut off everything, have no fun, have no joy? But I like the way you have phrased that. You've allowed people to think about that in a different way. You talk about it as mindful spending. Tell me a bit about that.
Yes. And actually, you used a brilliant word there, frugality. My personal ethos is not about deprivation. It is not about frugality. It is about spending money where you get value.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you a practical idea of what this looks like, because it's all nice to be esoteric and stuff, but it is important to be practical, because money is practical, and it's a skill like everything else. So if you're working hard for your income, you have been trained, you've qualified, you've had time, experience, you've good bosses, bad bosses, all that sort of thing. but you give so much to your company. And as a result, they give you a paycheck. And that paycheck has to be used to pay your bills, pay electricity, go on holidays, pay your deposit, get your groceries. But nobody teaches you really how to do that. So for somebody who is relatively new to budgeting, or they're not fully sure what to do, something that's really handy is figuring out where your money's going. So when I say that, I'm going to have a quick chat about a money audit. And a money audit is a really simple way of budgeting. If you're not into the paper budgeting and if you're not into Excel and sitting down and going through all your things, not your thing, this is a really simple way of finding money that you maybe didn't know you had.
Okay.
And then you can channel that towards your deposit. So, and a money audit, very simple. You have your income and you have your expenses. Now, anybody who is saving, who doesn't want to go down the full-on deprivation route, who wants to have a balance in their life, I would highly recommend you work out what your expenses are per month. And you can do this by getting a bank statement, 1 or 2 bank statements, and literally running down, like, what's your rent? What's your ESB? What are these bills that you have to
These
pay?
are the essentials that you can't change. They don't vary particularly.
Yeah, you have to pay them just to keep your life ticking over.
Yeah.
You work out what they are. And then you look at your income and you know what your income is coming in. It's usually on your pay slip. And you go, okay, well, what's the gap? What's the difference between the two of those? And that's the money that you can save. But once you find what that gap is, you might kind of go, do you know what? I'm doing better than I thought. Might have the lower than I thought, which is a really empowering thing because you have the numbers now and you can see. So don't be totally afraid of doing this. But on the other side, you go, well, do you know what? I'd love a bit more wiggle room here. That's when you do your money audit. And the money audit is you take your same sheet, your same bank statement, and you run down through it, but you get 3 highlighters. You have your green highlighter, your amber highlighter, your yellow highlighter, and your red highlighter. Like, see your face. Like,
see where this is going now. Yeah.
But see this as a game, okay? Absolutely see this game. Sit
Reading
down
bank
with a cup of
statements
coffee.
is definitely my favorite pastime. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, it's not necessarily hobby, everybody.
No,
It's still
not.
hobby, but this is definitely worth doing. And the reason it's worth doing is you get your green highlighter, you go down through it, and you have the bills that you have no wiggle room on, but they bring value. They're very important. And I would include in this, like, if there's a particular subscription that you use a lot that you love and that you'd really miss it if it was gone, keep that in green. We're not going to cut out all the good things of life, but do keep the things that you have to have in your life to keep everything going. So they're your greens. Then you have your ambers. Your ambers are the things where you kind of go, okay, I could be doing a bit better on that. I could renegotiate that a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe, work on the grocery a little bit. They're your amber things where you could, without massive effort, put them into green, make them a bit better.
Okay.
And then there's the reds. The reds are the eye-opener ones. And we all know the reds because they're the ones where we look at our statement and go, what is that?
Yeah.
I have no idea what that is. Don't remember doing that. What was that about? The reds are the ones where we kind of go, oh, but the reality is the reds are the ones it's where money wasn't spent wisely. It's the impulse spending. It's a spending we forget. It's a spending that usually ends up in landfill in about 6 months' time.
I get it. It's ASOS or the online shopping late night or something like that. Or it may not be big things. It may be lots of little things. Once you've highlighted a couple of pages in green, amber and red, you suddenly see like, what these, €20 here, €5 here, and you realize it quickly adds up. And that might be the weekly takeaway or the coffees or something like that, or the lunch that you could have brought from home. And those quickly add up and you realize that could be a few thousand a year.
Absolutely. And quite often there'll be things in the mix there that you would have forgotten about. So there could be a subscription you signed up for and it was a free trial and it just kept rolling. And you need a couple of those in a month. And let's pretend it was €10 a month and you have 2 or 3 of those. And that's several €100 that you didn't even notice or maybe put much mass on until now. Until now you realize, I want a home. I want more out of life. And I would sooner have that €10 a month going towards my deposit for my home than to a company that I don't get value from because I'm not using it. And so what you do then is you give yourself little jobs and you just go, right, this week I'm going to cancel these 3 subscriptions, or this week I'm going to renegotiate my ESB, and just little small steps like that. And you'll be surprised the amount of money that you can free up month on month. And by cutting those expenses, you're not cutting out your life. You're not having deprivation frugality. It's just cutting out the things that don't really matter to you at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think I like the way you phrase it as, you're weighting where your money is going. What is this worth? Is this worth me having the enjoyment of a takeaway on a Friday night or something like that? Or is the value, the benefit I'm going to get from getting a house in a year or two's time, is that combined better than all those little instances? And really be mindful about where you're putting your money and what the greater goal is.
Yes. And once you do that over time, and I would recommend people would do this ideally at least once a year, but if you're new to it, I'd say like nearly every month. I do it nearly most weeks at this stage, but it gets faster and faster as you do it. It gets really, really fast. And you just go, oh goodness, yeah, we need to cancel that subscription. Oh goodness, do you know what? Didn't have to do a top-up shop. There was food in the fridge. And you'll be surprised how quickly you can loosen up 10, 20, €100 a week, a month, whatever. All that money, if you channel it towards your deposit for your house or whatever it is you need to do to get all your ducks in a row for that home, it will feel so good. You'll be so happy when you look at your next couple of statements. You go, you know what? That's nearly all green, a few ambers. I can deal with that. And it puts you back in the driver's seat. And it's amazing the difference, because you see somebody who's saving for a house, who's in control of it, versus somebody who isn't ready for the full mindset of it yet. Huge difference in their confidence and their belief in getting the home as well.
Yeah, I see. I talk to online a lot of first-time buyers who are out there saving, and they send me sometimes. They send me screenshots of from their buyer's journal of the pages. We have some great fill-in pages there where you fill in your monthly savings or whatever it is, and then build up. There's a little sort of chart you can color in and shows you. And some of the things they send me are incredible. The amount of saving, you can sort of highlight as you go. And people send me screenshots of this because this is my favorite page, and people fill it in all with different colors and things like that, or shade it in nicely. And people send me these, and they're fantastic. And I'm just blown away by how focused some people are. It's usually if it's a couple, it's normally the girl. And they can be phenomenal. And a lot of them now, they're undergoing hardship. They're maybe living at home with parents and saving on rent, or they're living super frugally, not eating out, and they're just having a blitz for 6 months or 12 months, whatever it is. But they're putting away incredible amounts of money, especially as a couple. I know for single buyers, it's much, much harder, both in terms of being able to save and also getting a mortgage. But with couples, sometimes, they're spending, with saving all of one person's income, completely going to savings. And sometimes they've saved an incredible amount in just a year. I just don't know how they do it. So they're very focused. That's where you got to be, I guess.
Actually, even just using your journal there, I was looking at it, the fact of taking the time to color it in, to track the stuff, that reinforces in your mind what you want and where you're going. And if you do that regularly enough, you won't get distracted by the impulsive things, because this is what I want more than anything else.
That's why we wanted to have a physical journal there, because you can track it on a spreadsheet and that sort of thing, but actually seeing it in your hands and coloring in with pencil or pen or highlighter by yourself really makes a difference. Now, these days, it has got better. Things like Revolut accounts, where you can quite quickly see where the money's coming in, and you can deposit little amounts here and there, or do little top-ups and stuff like that. It's very clever. And I think it almost gamifies the savings routine, and there's other apps that do that as well. But this is a nice sort of old school physical way that you can see it. And I do think it helps, if you're sort of starting here, it looks less insurmountable. If you're halfway up, you feel like, look how far I've come, and look how much I have to go. And that gives you motivation to get to the next sort of level, or to get all the way to the top. So no, I think all those little things do help people. Just keep focused and keep going with it, because it's tempting to get halfway and you feel like you've lived a frugal life for 6 months, and it's very tough, but push through and you'll get there.
You absolutely will. And even if the journey takes a little bit longer than what you'd like it to, just keep moving forward, and don't underestimate the power of the small things done well. The €20 saved on a takeaway, the getting rid of a subscription, the renegotiating electricity. Don't underestimate that, because each of those add up, and that put aside compounds. And that's what gets you your result.
That's a really good point. Okay. So you came out with the book only a couple of years ago now. You, in 2019, really set yourself on this path. Tell me about where you were then and what you did in that year to really get yourself in a better position.
Yes, I did a Nospend year.
I'm hearing this all the time now. It's become more popular. It sounds terrifying, but tell me a bit more.
Do you know what? It goes back to, what do you want most out of life? So back in 2018, I had been in my job for 16 years, had my master's and all that sort of thing, and I really enjoyed what I did. But I noticed during that time that I was spending more and more time away from the kids.
Yeah.
And I kind of went, after a while, yes, I was bringing in money. And yes, the things were I'm very, very fortunate and very lucky. But I found that my kids' childhood was passing me by and I wasn't around to see it. And I remember like one week in particular that I hadn't seen my kids awake at all. I was gone so early in the morning, and I'm including this weekend here. I was gone so early in the morning, and by the time I came back, they were in bed. So all I was seeing was their like cute little sweaty heads in the bed, giving them a little peck on their forehead or whatever. But they wouldn't have seen me, and I was like, this is not what I wanted out of life. I loved working and I loved my job, but I wanted to be around for my kids. So it scared the living daylights out of me because I have always worked from being very, very young. I'm a Wexford girl, so I would have picked strawberries from the ages of 4 and 5 and worked the whole way up a lot. I would have always had my own income, and the thought of not having that scared me. And the thought of leaving a job I worked for 16 years scared me even more. But I knew that if I didn't do this, if I didn't step back in some shape or form, I would regret it for the rest of my life. So I took a big deep breath, shed loads of tears because the fear that was in me doing this was just, yes, it was fearful. But I handed in my notice. Scariest thing I ever did.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make the income that we did have work as hard as it possibly could. And for that, I said I was going to do a no spend year. And the no spend year was a life changer, a game changer for us. The short version is I wrote out a manifesto for myself. I love my rules. I love my structure. My background is science. So the nerdy part of me just comes through every now and again. But I said, no, if I had a set of rules, not super strict rules, but you probably call them more guidelines that I would stick to throughout the year and just to see how it would go. I had nothing to lose. And in one way, everything to gain. I was going to jet this year with the kids and then I think I might go back to work or whatever. So over the year, I decided, right, I was going to give up alcohol. Me personally, I stopped buying clothes. We stopped eating out. I decided I was going to try and cut our food budget in half, which we ended up doing, which I couldn't believe because
that's incredible. Yeah. So you set yourself a target of €100 a week, which would be under, about 5,000 for a year, which seems with a family of 4 seems undoable.
I thought it was a stretch. And it did, to be fair, it did take me a while to get into it, but it forced me to get very structured in how I shopped. So like I had one big shop like once a week, and then I'd keep a little money back for a top up during the week. We all run out of milk.
Yeah, there's always bread and milk.
And all that sort of stuff. Exactly. Yeah. And I got much better at cooking meals from scratch and getting the most out of meals. But one of the big things that helped me save money with the shopping was looking at my food waste, believe it or not, and working backwards from there. So a big like the money audit, looking at the money that isn't bringing you the value. I was looking at my bin and I was kind of going, well, what's going into it? So I stopped buying lettuce for the whole year because I realized we bought it because you should be healthier. But it turns out nobody actually liked it.
No one ate it. It ended up in the bin a week later, yeah.
Yeah, it turns out they all loved broccoli. Yes, they loved broccoli.
Great.
Main house liked it. They love broccoli. So I just buy broccoli and not buy lettuce. I would have carrots and tomatoes and all that instead. But it took me that time to slow down and realize, well, what do we love eating? What can we cook from scratch? And just take it from there and get very disciplined and structured in how I did that. So that was the food. Then with our kind of discretionary spending, so days out and stuff where we might have gone to the cinema and things like that before, we focus more on parks and going to festivals. And there's a lot of free things if you look on Facebook or Eventbrite. There's family things you can do, picnics, little frying pan, little camper stove. You can have picnic anywhere in the world with a little camper van and a pack of sausages and off you go and just mix that in with your food budget.
I think that's one thing with COVID we've learned to do very well because everything was closed. It was at parks, beaches, bring your own picnic and that sort of thing. I think I've carried that on because I think as the world has opened up again, everything is busy. There are people everywhere, and I'm just preferring to find a nice quiet playground or a woodland walk or something like that where I don't have to pay to get in because everything is expensive and there's no other people most of the time as well.
Absolutely. And like we're so lucky in Ireland in some ways. Like we had all the OPW sites, all these castles and gardens, and even if you do pay in, it's a couple of euro and you get a whole day out. Like we are very lucky that way. But it's just to get that little bit organized, bring your picnic with you. The kids, they'll play anywhere. They'll go anywhere and just throw on welly boots and rain jackets, and that's just as much fun in a different way. But even if you do want to go to cinema and stuff, you just mix it in with days that are no spend days. And no spend days, they're just days where you don't spend money except on your groceries or essential bills. And you mix those in and you'll be surprised how much money stays in your account when you look at it from that point of view. What can I do that's fun today that doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money?
And do you find that these habits are habits that you've continued even after you focus on the no spend year? I don't think anyone's going to keep doing that forever and ever, but you probably end up with a much more careful sense, a mindful sense of where your money's going, and carry that on in certain areas afterwards.
Yes, I do remember coming up to New Year's Eve at the end of the year, and I had been thinking, oh, I'm going to be wishing for New Year's Eve so I can just get back to being
Pop the champagne corks after a year and they booze, yeah.
Exactly. But as it turns out, no, I was quite happy. And even when I woke up New Year's morning and I could buy clothes again, I could do all those things. I didn't. I actually didn't.
Yeah.
But actually, like, that's a slight little. I bought a pack of organic cotton bamboo socks. And they were the nicest socks I have ever had the entire life, because I'd run out of socks clearly at this stage. And I learned to appreciate quality soft socks.
Yeah.
There is something just gorgeous about that. But it made me understand that fast fashion isn't necessarily all it's cut out to be, because during that year, since I couldn't buy clothes, all the less expensive clothes, they kind of fell apart and they wore through.
Yeah.
Whereas the things that I had that were maybe of better quality, I still have them today. And it's really made me learn that just buying fewer things, and quite often buying secondhand or in thrift stores, secondhand stores, you'd be surprised what you can pick up for little money, but really good quality stuff.
That's a great tip. Yeah, fantastic. Now, I liked in your book as well, you have you have sort of 7 habits that I think you must have learned from this year, and then you carry. We should say, before we finish the no spend year bit, you saved how much in the 1 year?
Just over €27,500 we cut.
That's incredible. And you would quit your job, so that was only off one income?
Yeah.
Incredible.
We cut our outgoings by just under €27,500. So
yeah.
And that was everything.
So that's to cover
across the board,
okay.
from food, you name it. But we didn't miss out on anything. One big thing that does come up, a lot of people kind of say, well, what about holidays? We did the same holiday in 2019 during the no spend year as we did in 2018, to the same self-catering accommodation, to the same, it was by a beach, in the same, pretty much the same week, exactly the same, but it cost us nearly half. Because we had the picnics, we didn't eat out as much.
Right.
We didn't get to take away coffees as much. We made the coffee.
That's incredible. So you can still do the same sort of trip, but if you just do it the right way, you can still save a huge amount of money. Yeah. Okay. That's
absolutely.
Yeah. We've been the same. I don't think we haven't had a foreign holiday for about 8 years. I think we go to England every year to see my family, but then we went to Cork for 3 days one year. We went to an Airbnb. We went to a small hotel in Galway another year. This year we may go to Derry or something like that. And we've explored the island and stayed cheaply, been frugal, bought our food in Tesco's or whatever locally, and made our own picnics rather than eating out all the time. And it's done a world of good. It's been a wonder, yeah. And the kids love it. The kids still go on about this tiny little hotel pool that we were at in Galway, which is the smallest thing, about the size of my desk here. But they still go on about it, how they loved it. So anyway, they don't have expensive tastes, thank God.
No, it's just something different, a new environment.
That's it, yeah.
It will play anywhere. So they will. And it's, yourself, the best times you've had in your life, it's the company that you've had. It's not necessarily how much you've spent on it.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, I wanted to get on to some bits in your book. I don't want to go through it all because I want to save that for people who should go out and buy it, because if you're starting out on your savings journey and you really want someone to help focus your mindset, I think it's worth picking up, as well as following Kel online. But your habits there, I'm interested in the first couple. Your first one is pay yourself first. This is something that I think comes up a lot with savers. Talk me through that and how that can apply for someone who is trying to put away money for a mortgage, for a deposit.
Yes. So pay yourself first. It is a game changer when it comes to saving. It is an absolute game changer, but there's a mindset shift attached to it. So, and what that looks like is, traditionally, we get our paycheck in and we have all these bills going out and you have all these things to pay out, and then life happens and there's weddings and Christmases and birthdays and all this. We have to get this, that and the other. You rock up to the end of the month and you're going to save what's left.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem is when you get there, there's not necessarily a huge amount left of the account to save at all. No, but pay yourself first flips that on its head. And what it does is you get paid. The next bill is you. And it's an interesting one, because most of us, we're not used to putting ourselves at the center of our money. We're nearly afraid we push it out to everybody else. But this puts you at the center of your money, and it's paying yourself for your month's job well done. Because if you rock up at the end of the month with no savings, you've essentially worked that month for free because you've nothing to show for yourself.
Haven't progressed anywhere further, especially if you have a goal.
Exactly. It's kind of a sobering thought when you consider how many late nights people work, how many hours they put in.
Yeah.
If you don't save and put money into a pension or to savings or whatever that month, you have essentially worked for free. So with pay yourself first, it means putting money aside before you even pay your bills. Like, treat your money as if it was the most essential bill possible. And that might sound a little bit unnerving when you're starting it, but I'd say start small. Like, even if it's just 50, 20 euros, something like that, but just put it aside. Get the practice in place.
That's a great habit to get into. Yeah.
So start small and build.
And okay, perfect. So you can set a goal, and if there's someone looking to save, as I said there, we try and encourage people to set a goal. Maybe it's 50, maybe it's 250, something like that. Put that away first, and then all your bills go out after that. So that's gone, and there's no hoping at whatever's left over at the end of the month, because most of us will have very little left over at the end of the month. That's a great tip. I think that's really important for us.
Yeah, and the beauty of this as well, Ben, is that once you pay yourself first, and have it as a set amount, right? Don't have it as everything that you kind of had in the gap. But once you pay your bills, what's left over? That's guilt-free, go have fun money.
That's a good point. Yeah, absolutely.
And just enjoy it. Just enjoy what is left there. And don't even think about it. Whatever it is, if you want a takeaway, get it. If you want, the nice pair of jeans, get it. And because you have to have something we're humans. We like our bit of instant gratification.
Sure.
And this is a great way of making sure you're securing your future, you're keeping your roof over your head, and you're having that bit of fun that's just yours.
Yeah, you can go and spend that on clothes or a night to the cinema or a night out, something like that, knowing safely that you put away their money that you've set your goal for, and you put that aside. And you can actually mindfully spend this money without regrets, without worrying, I should have stuck that in savings as well. No, look, you've done that. You've done your savings for the month. You paid yourself first, and you can now go and enjoy that. Brilliant.
Exactly. That's where the balance comes in. And that also makes it doable month on month on month, year on year on year. And you can do this for the rest of your life, and it just works.
Perfect. I did. Now, the one other one I wanted to ask you there, a lot of savings and money experts talk about having an emergency fund. All these shows, they say, look, put 1,000 away or something like that. You don't like to call it an emergency fund. You call it something else?
Yes, I call it a rainy day fund. And the reason I call it a rainy day fund is I know when I was younger and I didn't know much about money, and I'd hear this word emergency fund, and I would think you would nearly have to have a zombie apocalypse before you step into it. So I was like, we're not going to have a zombie apocalypse. Probably.
Well, or a pandemic or anything like that. No.
Pandemic, yep. So I just found the phrase rainy day fund helped me to save. And it helped me to save because in Ireland, it's going to rain. You don't know when it's going to rain. You don't know how long the rain will last or how heavy the rain is going to be, but it's going to rain. So you need your raincoat, you need your umbrella. And that's what your rainy day fund is, because inevitably an appliance is going to break. The car is going to pack it in. There's something is going to happen that you suddenly have this big bill landing on your plate. But it's the unexpected, expected surprises of life. And that's what your rainy day fund is for. And anybody who kind of finds it a bit more difficult to get their head around an emergency fund, just think having this money aside in your rainy day fund for when it inevitably does rain, it's easier to put that money away because your car is going to need to be changed in X amount of time, or that the fridge has been around for way many more decades than it needs to have been around for, and you need to change it.
You've named the exact two things that are gnawing on my mind at the moment. My car is in the garage as we speak, and the fridge is making a funny sound. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And actually, it's really important for savers who are looking to buy a house, and the next step on the journey is to get a mortgage. I see a lot of people asking questions into the groups and forums that I contribute to. What if something breaks down? What if I need to spend money on this? Can I take it out of my savings fund? And sometimes that is a big no-no with mortgage brokers or the banks. They say, look, don't ever touch that fund. If it looks like you're dipping in and out of that, or for say 1 month, your usual 1,000 euros you're going to save in there doesn't go in there because you've spent it on repairing a car or something like that. Avoid that with all costs, because the bank sees that as a gap or a problem and why you've taken it out. Whereas if you can keep that saving, you've done it at the beginning of the month, and the fridge breaks or whatever it is, if you don't dip into that, but you have that rainy day fund to dip into, you can keep your record clean with your savings account. That's the one the bank or the mortgage broker or the lender are going to be focused on. If you can keep consistent with that, you have that rainy day fund there, which you can use without worrying about, and you can rebuild it and refill it later. That seems to be a really good tip.
Absolutely. And for somebody, if somebody's saving for a deposit, chances are they're either renting or they're living with family or something like that. So you probably don't need a massive rainy day fund, but you just need to think, okay, what do I have in my life that is going to cost me money? So, and I don't want to touch my home deposit. And it might just be, okay, look, don't need to worry about appliances just yet because that's the landlord's, whatever. But the car usually costs me this amount of money when I get it done. I need to keep it ticking over till we get this mortgage approval. So I'll need that extra 600, 1,000. It doesn't have to be
it's often
money.
a car, because you're probably hanging on to a car that's a little bit too old, a little bit too tired, because you can't go and get another car loan before you get the mortgage loan, because that would ruin your credit rating and you'd have extra bills going out. So you're holding on to the car just to eke it through. And so hopefully after you get the mortgage and you moved in, you can probably go and get a credit union loan or a different car loan and upgrade your car. A lot of people do. But yeah, it's normally the car that goes sort of a week before your mortgage application, and well, what do we do?
And you don't need that stress in your life.
No.
You absolutely don't. So having that bit of money, and I know it can be tough because you're trying to build up your deposit as much as possible, but think of the protection this is giving you. It's keeping the car on the road. It's keeping your record clean. And trust me, when you get to the house, there's going to be a use for this rainy day fund. There's going to be plenty of things that you're going to need to do the house and all that kind of thing. But if you can, it doesn't have a huge amount of money, have that separately there. And then when you are in your house, have a look around and go, okay, well, what is coming down the line? Because you're going to have different expenses and different bills, but your rainy day fund, just think of those things, the unexpected, expected things you have coming down the line. And that's what you need that for.
Brilliant. That's great. Well, I recommend the book. It's fantastic, and really will help people on the start of the journey or any part of their journey, even if they have a house and they're looking to put stuff away for pensions or savings and that sort of thing. It's definitely worth looking at. You're very active on Instagram, and you reach a lot of people there. You're also you have courses and things like that. How else are you helping people who are looking for help on this?
Yes. So my main day job, I suppose the best way to put it, is I'm a money mindset coach, and I coach people to get in the right headspace with money. I teach them how to just get rid of all the negative beliefs and all of that. And then I give them systems that they can manage their money with nice and easily. Just rinse and repeat so that you can just, for the rest of your life, be confident with money, feel that you're well able to handle money, have the skill of money, and then the systems that go with it. And that's mainly what I do. But I do have courses. I do have the book, and I am on social media quite a lot.
Brilliant. I think I probably need to get on your books and start getting some coaching from you myself. Well, Kel, it's been great. I really appreciate you coming on and talking that. I think it's going to be really helpful for people just in the start of their journey. Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
Yes. So Instagram at Mrs. Smart Money HQ. You'll find me on LinkedIn at Kel Galavan, and at my website at mrssmartmoney.ie.
Totally perfect. That's great. Kel, thank you so much for coming on today, and I hope we'll have you back another time to talk about another topic and keep helping people. All right.
Have a great day, Ben.
Have you thought about mortgage protection? Probably not. It's an often overlooked but essential part of buying your first home. If you're buying with a mortgage, it's a legal requirement to have mortgage protection in place before you can draw down your loan. Many people forget about it until it's late in the day and often just sign up to a standard mortgage protection offered by their lender. I know that's what I did. Beat the Bank could be 40% cheaper than your bank. You can sign up in minutes, completely online, and find policies from just €10 a month. Beat the Bank price match all the top insurers and then get you a discount off the best rate. Niall and the team at Beat the Bank are getting rave reviews from all our followers and our friends. They make things simple for you. No paperwork, no unwanted sales calls, and an end-to-end digital experience. So whether you're about to buy your first home or you already have mortgage protection and life insurance, go to beatthebank.ie today and see what you could save. Thanks for staying tuned. Now, in our last couple of segments, we have a fun feature where we are comparing properties on the market and where they are located or what type of property they are. We call this in, out, and away, and also new home versus old home. It actually comes out of a couple of sections in the Irish Home Buyers Journal, where we just take you through an exercise to think about, why do I want a second-hand home or a new home? Or do I want to be in a house that is in town on the edge of town, or perhaps can I get away and get something better value for money or in a nicer location? Each week, we're picking a few properties on the market and we are going to compare them all at the same price range. And I want you to go to my social media at Irish Home Magazine and tell me which one you would choose. So this week on In, Out and Away, we have taken the price range of €350,000. We're looking at a property in Ringsend, a house in Ballybrack, and then a house out in Wicklow Town. First, we're looking at 73 Ringsend Park. This is a traditional Dublin red brick workers' cottage. It's actually two-storey, you can see from the skies. But you can see from the aerial photo there, right over the back is the P&O ferries. This is right on the River Liffey, right in the centre of Ringsend, Dublin 4. Inside, the ground floor is just a single open-plan room, living room and kitchen, with a tiny courtyard garden, and looks like upstairs 2 dormer bedrooms. That's our in for €350,000. Out on the suburbs is Ballybrack. Ballybrack is a really nice area. This is actually a sale that we have, and it's an area with a lot of ex-council houses that are being done up. This one hasn't been. It's a 3-bed semi-detached ex-council house for €330,000. Needs a bit of work, but could be scrubbed up really nicely. It has a car parking bay and a side passage. Finally, away. This is 6 Glebe Mount on the edge of Wicklow Town. This is a 3-bed semi-detached house in beautiful condition inside, lovely grey interiors, has been modernised and done up. It's semi-detached with off-street parking, with lovely big south-facing back garden. This is also on the market for €350,000. So which would you choose? The inner city 2-bed red brick terrace in the middle of town, on the edge of Dublin City in Ballybrack, or the 3-bed semi out of town in the heart of County Wicklow? You go to our social media and tell us which one you would choose. Our second part of the feature is new home versus old home. Here we compare a new build home in a particular town with a second-hand home in the same town for roughly the same price range, just to see what you can get for the same value for money. Today we are going to a lovely town called Lismore, which is in County Waterford, but it's on the Cork border. This looks like a lovely old market town, and there's a new home scheme called The Mills just being built on the outskirts of the town. A 3-bed semi in The Mills will set you back €295,000. These are beautifully finished stone-fronted houses with beautiful open-plan interiors and fitted kitchens already with large island units and what looks like a marble surface. These houses are practically complete apart from just your choice of flooring. They have beautiful tiled bathrooms and nice-sized back gardens. Now for our old home, we found this beautiful old house in the town centre on Chapel Street, which was obviously a shop on the ground floor originally, but has been converted into a fine family home. Again, it's priced at $295,000, whereas the new build was a 2 rated. This is only a D1. But it has been nicely modernised inside with a beautiful modern kitchen, small but perfectly comfortable living room. Some of the bathrooms have been done in a shabby chic style, and there are plentiful bedrooms up through the 3 stories of this house. It has a largish courtyard garden, but it is in the centre of town compared to the other one, which is on the suburbs. So which would you choose? The A-rated new build on the outskirts of town, or the refurbished period home in the heart of the town centre? Go to our social media and comment below, or click on one of the poll buttons to choose. Finally, we're going to finish the show with 3 items of news that you should know. The first is an article from the Irish Examiner, written by Owen McGee. Inflation is everywhere we look, but we can control some things. Owen has some really positive ideas about cutting your costs, the main 2 being switching energy supplier, which everyone should be doing on a regular basis to see if they can get the best rate, even when they are putting up the rates. And secondly, switching your mortgage lender. If you're on a variable rate or still on a long-term tracker, now would be the time to switch. There are some excellent value fixed-term mortgages out there for longer-term periods, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It's worth talking to a mortgage broker and having a look at those. That takes us to our second article, this from breakingnews.ie. Homeowners urged to act now to avoid mortgage repayment hikes. And again, on the same theme, Martina Hennessy from doddle.ie, we're talking to her in episode 3. She has said, don't wait till next year. Now is the time to lock your mortgage into a fixed rate mortgage before rate increases go up again. Finally, the third article from thejournal.ie, house prices likely to increase in coming months despite significant increase in supply. Now, I think this might seem quite out of date in a few weeks' time. Let's just see where things are going. Certainly the house price rate of increase is continuing to rise, but a lot more slowly than it was in the last year. They expect significant supply to come online and demand to keep up with that. But we may quite quickly find that with interest rate rises, demand slips away. And I know builders are finding it increasingly difficult to complete sites, and that might also slow down as well. So let's hold on and see what is happening. That's your news for the week. Thanks very much for everyone who tuned in this week to the whole show. Next episode, we are talking to Kaz Mooney about savings. I'm going to be going into more detail about practical steps for you if you're starting to save for your mortgage. If you want to get a copy of the Irish Home Buyer's Journal, then please do go to our website at irishhome.ie. You can order one there. Remember to use our discount code SHOW to get free shipping. You can also go to our social media at Irish Home Magazine. I'd love to see you there, and you can respond to some of our segments on their own videos there. And please leave a 5-star review on wherever you're listening to your podcast. It really helps the show grow and reach more people that hope we can help find their next home. All the best. I've been Ben Thompson. This has been the Irish Home Show. I look forward to seeing you next week, and listen to the next episode. It'll be out in your feed now. Our incredible theme music, Silhouette, was written and performed by up-and-coming Irish artist Finn O'Hara. Go find him on Spotify or YouTube. And thanks to Acast for hosting and supporting this show.